All right, joining me now is Ashley Knapton. She's the Dairy Strategic Accounts Manager with Pioneer Seeds Canada. Hello, Ashley.
Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm doing so well, mostly because we get to talk about forages, which is near and dear to my heart, near and dear to yours as well. This time of year, though, we're not talking so much about growing them. We're talking a little bit more about feeding them. So, what are the top questions of the week you're getting from all your clients?
Yeah, really good question. You're right. Like, we're not obviously, I wish we were thinking about growing them, right? There'd be a
I
little
do.
less snow on the ground, but right now, it's to me, this is the time of year where everything should be smooth. We should be
Mm,
stable. Our animals, no matter what they are, should just be trucking right along. And so, if they're not, we really got to do some digging into why. Is that our forages? Is that our housing? Is that some other aspect of the nutrition? So, forages often get blamed first because they're one of the most
right.
variable things, right? So, should we be resampling? Something like corn silage, as an example, it's changed a lot from when we put it in storage in September. That starch has become a lot more available. So if we're not adjusting for that, suddenly, our rumens could be taking on way too much starch and becoming a little bit acidotic, right?
Hmm.
Same, we can look at transitioning into different cuts of haylage through the winter. The moistures might change. Suddenly we have to adjust our dry matter intake accordingly. So those kinds of things are all what matters in terms of this time of year when we're talking about the feeding aspect.
Hmm. Now, thinking back to fall, and I love that you were so positive in saying September that the corn went into the silo or the bag, because I don't know if that was entirely true. So are you seeing any of the kickbacks from the tough fall that we had bringing in corn?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A little bit, right? I mean, I think some folks certainly were challenged with their harvest timing, and I would say we see that on alfalfa as well as corn. Like,
Hmm.
there's moistures that are all over the place, particularly drier because we just maybe didn't get it in fast enough. So that's absolutely a risk. Yeah, and I mean, I think some folks maybe went too early. Some folks maybe went in September when they should have gone in October because it's September. We got to be putting feed away, right? So we are starting to see some of those things as well. The other thing that we're seeing is we're really seeing, especially in Ontario here, we're seeing the impacts of growing season year over year.
Yeah.
And so that's something I'm getting a lot of questions about of, hey, my feed's testing great. I got great starch in my corn silage, but the cows aren't making milk. Well, it's probably actually nothing to do with your starch. It's probably actually your fiber digestibility, right? So,
Right.
are we looking at all of those nutrients and considering the fact that because it rained during that vegetative stage up until tassel timing, we didn't get a ton of sunlight, right? Those things affect the fiber accumulation, and that really changes the feed. It might look the same, and I mean, heck,
Yeah.
we had great yields, but those yields also come with a consequence of negative quality. So some things to think about there.
Hmm. And let's face it, rumens are kind of complex. And so, as much as it might be that the cows aren't eating it or making milk, it's really the rumens we have to think about. And
100%.
we got to keep them happy.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
I think you made a really good point. Starch is not a nutrient that cows need per se, or sheep
Right.
or beef. No one needs starch. Starch is just a really easy way to say energy. But you know what else is energy? Digestible fiber, right? So
Mhm.
we have to really, we are good at looking at some of those surface level nutrients, but I want to get down even a little bit further. What's available? How are the cows using it? That's what really, really matters. That rumen is incredible. It ferments so much stuff. Are we giving it the fuel sources to ferment?
Right. And thank you for mentioning sheep in that discussion. I recognize that's, not a part of your portfolio. But I do,
Just
I
for
do,
you.
I do appreciate the nod. Yes. Okay. Now let's shift gears just a little and let's look forward to, of course, when we will be talking about growing forages, because it's not that far away, we hope.
Yeah.
What are you working through with clients right now when it comes to spring being just around the corner?
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point where I don't have to remind folks it's coming. They're starting to be aware, right? The days are getting longer. Everyone's starting to think that spring. For us here in Eastern Ontario, once you get to that Ottawa Valley Farm Show, boy oh boy, then where
It's
everyone's
soon.
ready to go hammer down,
Hmm.
right? So, what are we thinking about right now? Still just confirming cropping plans, right? So, I'm a big fan of let's do an inventory check. Let's see how much feed you've got in storage right now. Did you use as much as you thought, more or less? We should have lots based on
Yeah.
last year. But if not, we need to figure out why or where are we losing it? Is it on purpose? Is it by accident? And if we do have a lot or a shortage, should we be tweaking our final cropping plans? Should we shuffle some acres around and make sure that we have the same target production year over
Yeah.
year? Just because we have a lot of haylage doesn't mean in my opinion, doesn't mean we should feed a really significant sudden increase in our haylage percentage in our ration. I want to feed the same ratio of haylage to corn silage year over year. and that means my acreage is going to have to change pretty drastically instead of my inventory. So inventory check, see where we're at, make sure we're good. The next thing I would kind of just caution, start thinking about winter kill, right? Our stands of, grasses, alfalfas, are they going to make it through? I'm not crazy worried, but we're not through the thick of it yet. There's lots of moisture out here. If we get a cold snap in February and it all freezes, then I could start to get really stressed. Or if we get a ton more moisture and it pools, same deal, I could be stressed.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, but I'm cautious at the same time. The other reason I'm cautious, to be honest, and this is just purely my own hypothesis, there's no science behind it. We got a lot of moisture through the fall last year. Does that change our risk of heaving, freeze thaw cycles in the soil? I don't know, but it's going to be something that we should keep an eye on, right? So certainly thinking about the risk of winter kill, what's our plan B if we don't have winter kill, but also making sure, do we need to grow more corn silage acres, or should we be growing a different kind of corn silage? Maybe we have tons of yield and now we need more quality. Should we shuffle into something maybe a little bit lower yield, higher quality, something with more, dual purpose BMR? Just thinking through, like I said, things are stable, hopefully right now. Yeah. Are we happy? If we're not happy, what changes can we make for this coming year?
Now, one last question before I let you go. Winter kill, of course, as you mentioned, always top of mind. It's one of those calls you can't make too early. When is there a date on the calendar, or do you go by conditions when you're going to pull the pin and say, no, too much winter kill, we've got to have a different plan for this acre? Calendar or conditions?
Conditions, right? So do that initial green up, see how much green is there. That might be a really quick indicator. If there's no green right at things when your lawn is coming along, we're going to pull it out. We're going to be really nervous about it. If it's greening up, when we get about 4 to 6 inches of growth, we're going to go back in and do a yield assessment. And then that's going to tell us if it's going to meet the opportunity cost for that acre. If corn and beans are really high, I don't know if I want to keep that alfalfa at 50% yield potential when we could be shuffling it into a different crop and starting out a new field, right? So do that initial green up check. That's going to be your biggest indicator, but yield is kind of that 4 to 6 inches, which is too late for a lot of us. We're all busy at that time. But if we want to get it right, that's when we have to go back in.
All right. Good advice, Ashley Knapton. Thank you for joining me here on the Farmer Rapid Fire. I appreciate it.
Thanks as always. Take care.